Geoff Eido. This is Lunacy, where we discern the sacred from the insane and admit that whether we like it or not, we are all profoundly affected by the cycles of the moon. How?
Nice.
My guest today is Noel Elie. She is an actress. She's a director. She has her own PR company. She is a healer and someone who is very invested in her own healing in this world. She is a powerful woman, and she's a very good friend of mine. Super happy to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me on Lunacy.
Yeah, thanks
I'm
for
a little
coming.
crazy, so.
I know you are. That's why
right.
you're here,
Uh-huh.
Noel, so we can talk about how crazy you are.
Great.
You know what I mean? And how crazy your pants are.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, crazy pants. Noel Elie, that's what we call her. I've never called her that before in my life, but now I'm calling her that right now.
That's right.
Yep, good deal. Sweet. So yeah, Noel, first of all, it's great to have you on the program. One of the things that we talked about talking about is your journey with healing.
Mm-hmm.
And I know for you, you're an actress and you've been a successful actress, and you're also kind of an influencer and you have your own company and all of that. But you and I actually came to know each other through our healing journey. That was I was part of your healing journey. Actually, I was
Right
along for the ride. Yeah,
that's right.
Right in the beginning.
Uh-huh.
So let's start at the beginning of that.
Mm-hmm.
Your journey as an actress, and then how that transition. You got sick, and how that whole thing started to happen.
Yeah. So I moved to LA in 2019, and my acting career was taking off, and things were going really well. And I had lived in New York for like 15 or 16 years. And at the beginning of 2019, I told my former partner, my husband, I said, Dan, I got to go to LA. You can come or not. We'll figure it out. I love you, but like I have to go. And so I moved to LA by myself for the first year, and he stayed in New York because he's an actor and he was working there. And things were amazing. And Dan moved to LA after COVID, and he got out of Dodge in New York. And all of a sudden I started getting sick. And I had about 2017, 2018, I had noticed like a lump in my stomach.
Oh.
And I had gone to the doctor, and
like you felt a lump in your stomach?
I felt it. Yeah.
Like you were feeling your tummy.
I would do this like very woo-woo thing where in the mornings, every morning I talk to my body, I rub her, I thank her for digesting properly and being healthy. And as I was rubbing my stomach, I felt this bump. And so I went to the doctor, and she was like, I don't feel anything. Maybe you ate too much. And so I went another year or two without thinking anything of it. And then this lump got bigger and bigger. And I started in LA, I started feeling exhausted, and I had chronic fatigue. I was tired, but wired. I started having all sorts of gut health issues, and I had never had that before.
What's that like?
Yeah, you know all about that. Not fun. Back pain. The pain in my back would be so bad that at night it would literally take my breath away when I would lay down.
Like lower back, upper back?
Lower back pain. All of these things. And so I finally went to a doctor in LA because I saw this sign on Santa Monica Boulevard, and it said, do you have stomach issues? Do you have back pain? Are you having skin issues? And basically all the symptoms it was listing were my symptoms. And it said, you may have uterine fibroid tumors. And so I went and WebMD'd it, which I don't recommend. And it was my symptoms were either, according to WebMD, fibroid tumors or cancer. So I was like,
oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
That's great. That's exactly what you want to find on the internet.
Exactly.
You die.
Yeah.
Tomorrow you'll be dead.
That's it. I'm a goner. So I went to the doctor, and she was like, yeah, you have 2 fibroid tumors. And we did the BRCA gene test to see if I had the cancer gene, and I did not, thank God. And so that led me onto this wild, gnarly journey where she wanted me to have it operated on right away. She sent me to a specialist. He wanted to cut it out of me. And I was like, let me see if I can heal myself a little bit first. I went and got an MRI. It turned out I didn't have 2 fibroid tumors like she thought. I actually had over 10.
Oh, wow.
And from there, found out I had Lyme disease, co-infections of Lyme disease. And I also had Epstein Barr. And I kept going to all these experts and specialists, and they were saying, well, you actually may have rheumatoid arthritis, and you may have this, and you may have that. And they just sent me with a bunch of antibiotics.
Yeah.
And I did not take them. Every time I would go to take them, something in my body said no.
Okay.
So I found plant medicine. I had heard about ayahuasca 10 years prior, and I was interested, but it wasn't the call wasn't that strong yet. I knew it was a not right now. And so I had heard of our friend, and it wasn't full ayahuasca. It was sort of like I always describe it as the baby steps into doing ayahuasca, into sitting with grandmother. And so I went and sat in the circle that we met at. And so from there, I was in. I saw the benefits right away, where I started really recognizing all the emotions I hold in my body and, the issues in our tissues, right? And so I started getting clear on, oh, wow, this is where my body holds on to trauma. So even if it wasn't trauma in a way that maybe it is for someone else, my body held on to it as trauma, particularly in the areas of where the tumors were. And so I made it my mission to keep sitting with medicine and keep uncovering, because, it's like the blinders are ripped off.
Yeah.
And so from there, I was all in, and I found out there was mold. And this is the craziest story about that. So I had been sitting for several months, and my intention was to go to New York and work with this doctor who was like $30,000 or $40,000 to get treated.
Holy smokes. To get treated for the fibroids?
To get treated for the fibroids, but also the Lyme disease and co-infections.
And the Epstein Barr.
And the Epstein Barr.
Okay. And by the way, how did you find out that you had those infections?
Great question.
Do you remember getting a tick bite and stuff like that? Was there a moment where you were like,
Yeah. So it's funny, when I was 6 years old, I was like kind of scratching at my head, and my mom was like, what are you doing? Come here. And there was a tick, and we lived in South Carolina in the woods. And so she took tweezers out and like burnt the tick, and that was it.
Didn't think anything of it.
And
back when you were 6, but Lyme disease was a thing when you were 6 years old, I think.
Yeah, it's been around for a minute. But the issue is people didn't know enough about it. It wasn't as talked about
prevalent.
as it is now.
It's much more, we're much more paranoid about it for good reason.
Yeah.
Okay. So,
But I didn't have like, one of the most common things you get from Lyme disease right away is there's like a ring around the bite.
Right.
But maybe I had it, but no one could see it. Yeah, exactly. And so looking back, I did have symptoms of having Lyme disease.
Okay.
But what can happen is a lot of us, like cancer, we can have it in our body, but it just remains dormant.
Yeah.
And so oftentimes it takes something really traumatic or other issues to activate the Lyme disease. And so I went to a chiropractor who did muscle testing on me.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And he was testing me. I had no idea what he was testing me for. He would put the illnesses, the diseases on my head, and then muscle test me. And at the end of the session, he was like, Noel, you are the epitome of health. Like when I look at you, I know how you exercise, all the healing you do, but who knew you were so messed up? And I was like, what? Oh, because I also had parasites. So it was like parasites. I don't know if he said mold, but Lyme disease, co-infections, Epstein Barr. And so that was the first time he had told me what was going on. But it's like, I needed the scientific evidence. Why would I trust my body?
Yeah.
Right. So I did blood testing.
Did you confirm? Because the muscle testing thing does sound very weird.
Totally.
You know what I mean?
It sounds really
it's bizarre.
weird.
They put stuff on your head and then they have you move your arms and all of a sudden they know.
For sure.
That just sounds like it's not really a thing, but it is a thing. And in fact, that's what he did. And then you had it confirmed with actual blood tests.
Yeah. So I went to my primary doctor and we did blood test for the Lyme disease.
For everything he said you had.
Yes. And the issue with traditional CDC testing is don't quote me on this, but it's something like they test against 15, it's like 5 or 15 bands of Lyme disease, but there's like over 50 different types of Lyme disease. So they're only testing you for 5 to 15.
Okay.
So it didn't show up as positive.
Oh, that's
so I
interesting.
and the same thing with parasites. Parasites are tricky little boogers. And so they'll hide. And so when you go to do like a poop test or a blood test or whatever, they don't show up.
Yeah.
And so
Gross.
I was like at first confused
They'll
because
hide.
they hide. They're so smart. They're so smart.
That's so creepy. It's so creepy.
It's so
I'm
creepy.
pretty sure I have some and I just don't even like thinking about it.
I know.
Thanks for
most
telling
people
me.
do. You're welcome.
Most people do. You probably have them out there. And sorry to tell you, but you might have parasites.
Yep.
If you get bloated and have weird things going on with your gut like I do. SIBO and toxins and I'm trying to get to the bottom of it myself. Part of the reason we're having this conversation. Okay, so go on.
Yeah. And so I did something called Cell Core, which I highly recommend. And you can do like a month of, it's a parasite cleanse.
Okay.
And so.
But wait, just to clear up the Lyme thing, did you then go to the next level on Lyme disease testing somewhere else?
So that's all they did, right? With my primary doctor. So I did Cell Core to start eliminating the parasites, but then I wanted to get to the bottom of the Lyme disease. So I did something called IGeneX, and IGeneX is a test that they test against all sorts of different bands of Lyme. And that came back as positive. Okay.
So IGeneX, if you want to test for Lyme disease, that's the joint.
That's the way to go. And it's tricky because Lyme and mold toxicity is the wild, wild west of medicine. And so unless you're going to an expert who really is trained in it, I went to so many infectious disease specialists and they were like, I don't know, maybe you have Lyme, maybe you don't. Who knows if it's even a real thing.
Right.
So it's tricky. And so it's maddening, but that's why I always tell everyone, be your own advocate. If you have stuff going on in your body, don't get to the bottom of it. Don't just listen to an expert because they're not God.
Yeah.
Right. And what's so wild is, so I did all of this testings. I went to IGeneX, found out I had Lyme disease. And that's when I found this doctor in New York, New Jersey, and I was going to go. And I decided to make lemonade out of lemons.
Out of limes?
Limes.
Snap. He made a Lyme disease joke.
Margarita's out of lime.
Yum, yum, yum. She made lemonade.
That's right. That's right. And so I was going to film a documentary around my journey. And because it was very integrative, I was going some conventional, but mostly holistic and spiritual. Okay. And so I had the crew all lined up. And the night before I was supposed to fly out to this woman, we had PR around it. I mean, there was all sorts of things. It was like midnight and my flight left at 6 a.m. and I'm packing like I do very last minute. And I keep hearing, don't go. Huh. I'm like, what? And so I tell Dan, I said, Dan, I'm not supposed to go. And he was like, honey, don't you want to heal? Yeah. And I said, of course I want to heal, but I can't go. And he said, why? And I said, I don't know. And he was like, okay, I support you, whatever you decide.
So this is you listening to your intuition.
This is me listening to my intuition.
Okay.
Don't know why. And I have plant medicine to really thank for really helping me listen. Mm-hmm. And so a couple days later, I hear, or maybe it was in a ceremony, I hear, get your home tested for mold. And the person we sat with, he said to me, I think I smell mold from me. And because he went through a whole gnarly mold journey. And so I come back from ceremony and I say to Dan, we have to get our home tested for mold. So we have a mold expert come in, mold specialist. And he's like, yeah, he does like moisture readings. He's like, I don't really think it's that bad. I'll test the kitchen, but let's see. And I said, test the bathroom. And he goes, I don't need to. I don't want to waste your money, because each test costs money. Right. And I said, I don't care. Test the bathroom. Yeah. He tested the bathroom. It came back such high toxic levels of mold. And it's crazy because the home that we lived in was newly renovated. You couldn't see mold. You couldn't smell it, but my body knew. Interesting. And because Dan was getting a ton of symptoms, including hair loss. And at first we were like, okay, maybe it's just, you're getting older. That's what happens. But then I started to get hair loss. Yeah. We were like, this is weird. And so came back, turns out we had mold. So I called my doctor in New York and New Jersey. And I told her, I said, I'm living in a home with toxic mold. She said, Noel, thank God you didn't come out here. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you would have come out here. You would have spent the $1,000+ because by the way, Lyme and mold stuff most of the time isn't covered by insurance. That's a fun fact. So
good. Cause right. Cause why would it be? Cause it's not really a problem.
Yeah. Not at all. It's not an epidemic.
No.
So she said, thank God you didn't come out here. You would have spent the money. You would have gotten better. Mm-hmm. And then you would have gone back into your home and gotten sick all over again.
Wow.
So from there, we had to get rid of every single thing that we owned.
Oh my God.
Everything.
It was like the house burned down, but it didn't actually burn down.
Yeah. Yep.
So that's interesting. I wonder, now that I mention it like that, because like my sister's house burned down in Berkeley a long time ago. Wow. And so she was like super bummed, obviously.
Yeah.
And there was a whole grieving process that she went through because everything and all these pictures and stuff and keepsakes and just went up in flames. Yeah. So she didn't really get to say goodbye to any of it. Oof. But in this case, you sort of, I guess you still have to get rid of everything, but then also I'm wondering, did you do kind of like a, I don't know, ceremonial
I did.
See you later kind of a thing with some of the things and stuff?
Well, it was hard because it's like, my whole life. Right. And my mom passed away in 2016, as you know, and there was stuff that she gave me that I had to let go of. And that was the hardest above anything else. Those items were the hardest thing to let go of. And so I was sitting with plant medicine about once a month. And so I did a ceremony because Dan and I had gotten rid of probably 75% of our things. Mm-hmm. We had decided, okay, we're getting rid of it. But there were about 25% that I couldn't let go of. Mm-hmm. And so we did a ceremony. You guys might have been in that ceremony where my intention was to release my attachment to things. And so that ceremony, I grieved.
Yeah, okay.
I grieved. And particularly my mom, when she passed away, had given Dan, it's called a biomat. It's an amethyst crystal biomat.
Oh, cool.
Super healing, beautiful. It heats up. It's incredible. And that was something that I was really hard to part with. And so after that ceremony, I came home and I said, okay, Dan, everything goes. And he said, really? I said, everything. And so the 25% of things that we had, we were outside on the street, just like sort of, okay, this goes to Goodwill, this goes to garbage, just sorting it out. Mm-hmm. And all of the sudden his asthma started acting up and I started getting heart palpitations. Wow. And that alone showed me there was mycotoxins, which is from the mold, in the items. Wow. And so because we had to move, right? We had to get rid of everything and move. Had we kept those things, we would have brought them into our new home and likely contaminated our new home.
Oh God. And then you would have spread the mold to your new home.
Yeah.
That's crazy. It's like crazy bed bugs or something.
Yeah.
So this is what I don't get, because people tell me this, and we have another friend actually that had to go through the same thing. Mm-hmm. Right. So, like, can't you just dip the stuff in bleach or something like that? Isn't there can't you put like a indigo light on that, UV light or something, just to kill everything and then you can keep it? No, you can't.
The jury's still out on that. It's like, because the problem with mycotoxins is because when we first found out about the mold, we went to our landlord and said there's mold, and they just like sprayed some bleach on it. And we're like, there you go. But the problem is if you don't treat it properly, the mycotoxins will have babies and they spread.
Wow.
And so it made it the way they treated it made it so much worse. And so it was just, you have to be really mindful. So like now Dan and I have this whole protocol where, I don't know if he's still doing it, but I will, if I am in a place where I likely sense mold, I'll then go home and take the items that I brought to the place and set them in the sun for 24 hours. And then from there, I will ozone the things. And then from there, I will wash them in borax and special mold stuff. So it's like a whole protocol that usually takes like a whole day. Mm-hmm.
You like spray ozone?
No, what I have is an air
make
purifier.
A hole in the ozone? Is that what you're doing? Because that's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
You better stop doing that.
Guys,
you're contributing.
I don't want mold.
Greenhouse gas problem right here, you guys.
No. So it's a air purifier. And the type of air purifier I have, you can press a button for the ozone. And so you can ozone your things. So you can't be in the space when you ozone. It's really dangerous. So I'll put it in a room, close off the room, leave my home, and then after a couple hours, come back.
So I mean, maybe I just don't know what it means. Ozone. I know the ozone layer in the atmosphere, but like, what does it do exactly?
It helps kill any mycotoxins.
Okay.
And so you can also, it's kind of skeptical, but or some doctors will say it's skeptical. They're skeptical about it is you can ozone your nostrils if you're having sinus stuff. You can ozone your lady parts. You can ozone all sorts of things.
I'm never going to do that.
Yeah.
Not ever.
You won't need to.
No, I won't.
So yeah, there's a lot of benefits from it. And so that's what I do.
Crazy.
Mm-hmm.
So then now you've gotten rid of everything. You have it taken to the dump. First of all, you really like grieved for all of the loss of all these possessions and all of your attachments here.
Like my wedding dress, like things that my mom gave me, books. I mean, so much.
Yeah. Which that's just incredible. And I think what's also incredible so far with the story is like you just prioritizing health above all else.
Oh, there was no other option.
No other attachments. This is it. This is my vessel. I want to live as long as possible and be vibrant. Yeah. Well, because
I was bedridden. I would go to lunch with friends and then literally have to lay in bed for like 3 days. And Dan really had to take care of me.
Wow.
Like he really, it was really sad.
And you're laying in bed in the toxic
in the mold
waste place. Okay. And the mycotoxins, mycotoxin, mycotoxin. It's not microtoxins.
No,
it's mycotoxins, which means like mold offspring.
Kind of. Yeah. Okay. Look it up, but yeah, something along that.
We are not scientists.
I'm not, definitely not. Okay. But it was really bad. And I also started having suicidal thoughts and
oh, wow.
It was so crazy. And one of the things I believe is the mold contributed to the fibroid tumors. So I had the fibroid tumors, but it grew. The way they grew in that home was out of this world. And I believe the mold was contributing to that. And one of the things that happened is when COVID hit, my little brother, he was in LA with me. We drove across the country with my dog, Libby, and met in South Carolina. Dan came from New York. My family was in South Carolina. We came from LA. And when I got to South Carolina, I got so sick. And I was in the most excruciating pain I had ever been in my life. And I have a really high pain tolerance. And so for about maybe 40 hours, I couldn't eliminate. I couldn't urinate. I couldn't poop, nothing.
Wow.
And it was so.
And where was the pain centered?
In my stomach, in my womb. And I had never felt pain like this. And I mean, we had tried everything like saltwater baths, enemas, like you name it, apple cider vinegar, and I couldn't go to the bathroom. And it was just like the more I drank, the more impacted I became. And so Dan had to carry me and rush me into the ER. And I went to the ER and they said, oh my God, the fibroids had shifted and they were blocking my colon blocking my bladder. And so I couldn't eliminate. And so they had to like massage it and move it and then enemas and things. And then eventually I was able to go to the bathroom. And it's wild because a dear friend of mine said to me, she said, Noel, I have had 3 natural births. I would do all 3 of them back to back to back all over again instead of going through what you went through because I have done it. And it is the most pain I've ever felt in my life.
Wow.
And so
she also went through the fibroids thing?
I don't know if she had fibroids or what, but basically her bladder and her colon had been blocked for whatever reason. She wasn't able to eliminate. And so it was so painful. But it was during that time that when he was taking me to the hospital, I said to God, I said, if this is what I have to live with, take me now.
Wow.
Take me now. I'm strong. I'm a warrior, but this is a no for me. And so it was really wild because along this journey, I then had such compassion for people who are suicidal and struggle with depression because I'd always been like the happy-go-lucky, like, no, never. And I was like, no, I'm good. God, I'm cooked.
Yeah.
You know?
Crazy. That's crazy. Okay. So So then they massaged the tumors out of you. They made it so you go to the bathroom.
They moved them. Yeah. Massaged them and shifted them. And then I was able to go to the bathroom. And so, but it was just, I didn't know things like that with fibroid tumors could happen.
Yeah.
You know, because I also didn't know about fibroid tumors. And just for all of you listening, most of the time, I think it's like 95% of the time, they're non-cancerous tumors, but they might be. And so what's so sad about fibroids is the number one surgery to remove fibroid tumors is a hysterectomy.
Okay.
And the number one surgery of all surgeries is hysterectomies. And so it's like,
really?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
It's so sad. It's so sad. And so, you know, I had gone to some doctors who were like, this is the worst case of fibroid tumors I've ever seen. You're never going to be able to have children, this and that. And it was really scary. So it's like when we moved and got rid of all the stuff, that took care of the mold. I also followed like a really intense protocol of using the lymphatic shaker, the rebounder, taking binders, taking glutathione, doing the infrared sauna every day, cryotherapy, vitamin therapy. I mean,
you were into it.
My whole mission was to heal my body.
Yeah.
As naturally as possible.
And plant medicine.
Yep. Yep. So it was like, that was my world. So I wasn't able to act. I wasn't even able to audition. There were friends of mine who offered me parts that I had to turn down. Yeah. Because I couldn't, my mission was to focus on my own healing.
Right.
And so did all of that. I passed a fibroid tumor naturally.
Okay.
So where it just came out, I was on my moon, I was on my period, and a tumor came out. And that's like unheard of. That's not common.
Okay.
But it was showing me, okay, what I'm doing is working. And then finally I got to the point where I opted for surgery. And
but this is kind of after you've already subsided a lot of the tumors that were in you, and you probably did you get like a sonogram or something to look at them to see that they had shrunk?
Yeah. So
MRIs.
So I had over 10, and then when I decided to do the surgery, he took out 8.
Oh,
so that was great. Like,
so you got rid of 2.
Got rid of 2,
and probably they were smaller in general, I would imagine, after all the work that you did.
No, they were pretty large. They because also too, it's like, yes, I was doing all of this work, but it's still the stress of having tumors in your body. And so one of the things that I had done is for a day, I wrote down my thoughts. Okay. For the entire day. And it was, you know, I think Deepak Chopra says 90% of our thoughts are recurring thoughts, repeating thoughts. And so I, after I was done with the day, I looked at my thoughts, and I would say 80% of my thoughts were, oh my God, is this affecting the tumors? I'm drinking, you know, coffee or something with sugar. Is this feeding the tumors? I'm stressed out. Is this causing the tumors to grow? And so that was the one thing that I really struggled with, was not being so consumed by the tumors.
Yeah, right. They were like running your life.
They were running my life. And
even though you were being very cognizant of
I was doing everything I could,
be helping them or getting rid of them or reducing them. Still, at some point you were just like, oh, I get it now. They're ruining my life. Yeah. They're running my life rather. And it's time to just take the step to actually have the surgery.
Yeah. I joke that I had a fruit basket in my stomach because the largest tumor was the size of a baby's head. Wow. There was one the size of an apple, a peach, a pear, a lemon, a lime. Like it was really intense. And then there were some smaller ones as well.
Interesting. Yeah. So I did have, you're my second person that I know. I had a girlfriend who had fibroids in her womb area also. And they really bothered her for a long time. And she debated on whether or not to take them out, similar to what you've gone through, although she did not, she didn't do nearly all of the alternative medicine therapies and like that. But she ultimately came to the conclusion to take them out. And she had surgery at Cedars-Sinai in LA, and they were able to get rid of them without doing the whole hysterectomy business. And I haven't talked to her in a minute, but to my knowledge, they never returned. Yeah. Anyway, but that's a whole, you know, she likewise was very reluctant to do it. She didn't want to do it, but then also she looked pregnant all the time. And she wasn't pregnant.
And that's the thing. Like I looked pregnant as well. and it was excruciatingly painful to have sex.
Okay.
Which affects your marriage.
Wow. That's,
Yeah.
And life.
Yeah. It was really, it's like, you don't know what this is like, but for any of the ladies listening, it was like, if you stick a tampon up inside of you, it felt like something was in the way, like you already had tampons in you. And it's because there was a tumor there. Yeah, it's not fun. The largest one was literally like pressing down on the front half of me. And then the other largest one was pressing down on my sacrum. And so it was just like really living with chronic pain. I have something called parathentesis on the back of my back, and it's this dark spot on my skin, and I'm pretty tan, but it's like really dark and you can't see it. But I went to the doctor to get it checked out, and they were like, oh, this is because what this is a result of is you are living with such, or have been living with such excruciating pain that your cells don't know what to do with it. So it comes out as this like dark spot on your skin. Isn't that wild?
This doctors told you that.
Yeah.
Crazy. So your cells don't know what to do. So they create like a dark spot on your skin because you were in such pain from the fibroids. Wow.
Yeah. But then when I had the surgery, and I was so scared, and
you had the surgery in LA.
I had the surgery in Orange County.
Okay.
I went to the best. I highly recommend him, Dr. Steve Yu. He is incredible.
Dr. Steve Yu?
Steve Yu.
Y-U.
He's also not covered by most insurance, some insurance, not my insurance. And so it's also pretty pricey. But he was incredible. And I have 3 small scars on my stomach, and like to take out tumors the size of a baby's head and to have these like teeny scars, it's incredible.
Yeah. Crazy. Go Steve Yu. Amazing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And so how long ago, that was what, like a year ago that you
was
had that
October.
surgery?
That was September 26th.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, so
and then you
almost
came to our wedding.
And then I came to your wedding. Yeah, I know.
Nice.
Well, I went to the doctor like a week or 2 later, and he said for a follow-up, and he was like, I don't know what you're doing, but normally it takes people 6 weeks and you're good.
Huh.
You're good. You can go along with life as you please.
Do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I went to your
Amazing.
wedding.
Okay, cool. Yay. I'm so glad, because that was fun.
That was so fun.
Nice. Okay. That's great. So that's an amazing journey of healing. And then, so what do you think? I'm just curious, like you mentioned you just gave us like a slew of different things that you tried during your time of healing, including ayahuasca and some other plant medicines, maybe. Did you do combo also?
Yes.
Like what were the things that you really were like, that definitely did something?
Combo for sure. I did combo, and I took Dan with me. And
so let's just do like a little combo is a frog, right? From the Amazon.
It's an Amazonian tree frog. And it's poisonous secretions that they secrete. And the facilitator, the practitioner, scrapes it off and puts it, basically burns little teeny tiny marks.
With like an incense stick.
Yeah, with an incense stick.
Yeah.
And then you put the combo,
the secretions onto your skin, onto that spot.
And it instantly supercharges your body with peptides, hundreds of peptides. And so I always say, I know you've done this, I can literally feel, it's like the frog is racing around my body, searching for disease to like attack.
Yeah.
And so it's wild. I mean, you purge.
And then you barf your brains out.
You barf your brains out. But the cool thing about it is it's just liquid.
Yeah.
You know, you're not like throwing up your dinner.
Right.
And it's wild because your face can swell up, your heart can race, your throat can close, and it can feel really scary.
It does.
But it's remarkable. And I took Dan with me. He was just going out of solidarity, not expecting anything. And we were throwing up, woke up, felt like crap that day. And we both were like, we're never doing that again. That was awful. The next morning we woke up, I felt like I could run a marathon.
Yeah.
It was so wild. He had eczema on his arm for years that no antibiotic, no natural remedy had healed it. The next day he woke up, it was gone.
Wow. Amazing.
One session. And so we committed to it, and we did 3 sessions within a moon cycle.
Okay.
And so it's like 3 in a month. And then from there,
we know about the moon cycles here at Lunacy.
That's right.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
There you go. There you go.
Moon cycles.
That's right. And so then we did it once a month for almost a year.
Okay. Cool. Amazing.
So combo for sure. And it was really wild because one time they give you like a bucket that you can purge in. One time I had a bucket, and for whatever reason, I needed another bucket. And one of the buckets was literally like a lime green, and the other bucket was like a brown. And we joked, we were like, oh, this is the lime and this is the mold.
Yeah.
Isn't that
wow,
wild?
That is crazy. I have also noticed, I've done it myself. By the way, do it at your own risk for sure. We're not saying, hey, go do combo. It's a great idea. You should go down to the jungle and see if you can catch a frog and then burn yourself and, make out with the frog. That's not what we're talking about. No. If you're going to do it, find somebody who knows what they're doing and, et cetera. Of course. And obviously this is all part of our own discovery process in what we're doing in our own healing. But my experience with it has been also rejuvenating the next day. It's been like, wow, I didn't even know. And also different colors of different things, toxins coming out. And my wife, Christine, also same kind of thing, so I also cannot explain how it works, but there is actual scientific evidence that demonstrates that these peptides are incredibly good for you. And the origin story of combo is really interesting, I think, which is something along the lines of, if I got this right, this tribe was super sick, and the shaman, the medicine man of the tribe, did some kind of a journey with some plant medicine. And the vision came to him, you should take this frog and you should burn people's skin and put it on them. And he was like, what? But then he did it and it totally worked, and it healed his tribe. Yeah. And
it's crazy because in these tribes, there's children like 5 years old who are like, give me combo. And they're like pros.
Yeah.
It's wild.
So, okay. So that's one of the things that worked. Yeah. What else really do you think worked?
So if I had to narrow it down to maybe like 5 things, combo, hands down. And it's scary, right? Like it's a warrior's medicine. So like it's not for the faint of heart, but for me, absolutely combo, plant medicine.
Okay.
Really doing the emotional work of where I'm storing different memories, different traumas, different emotions in my body, and really breathing into that. Because I would get a lot, a common symptom of Lyme disease is your joints feel like they're on fire.
Yeah.
And sometimes you herx. And so herxing is a reaction to having Lyme disease, either doing medicine to help or doing something that's not helping. And so herxing can look like being in bed for days. There was one time where my arm was doing this, just like jerking, like Tourette's almost, for hours.
Wow.
And that was a Herxheimer reaction. And so what I started recognizing through plant medicine is, okay, let me breathe into this area. What's happening? Oh my God, so much fear is coming up. What's the fear? That I'm never going to get well, that I'm not enough, that my marriage is going to dissolve, this, that, like any fear that I had, I would breathe into it. And then all of a sudden the Herxheimer reaction would subside. So like really doing the emotional work, whether it's through plant medicine or doing shadow work or prayer, meditation, breath work.
Yeah.
That if I
whatever
could
trips your trigger.
Exactly.
And also, by the way, ayahuasca is not for the faint of heart. It's really intense medicine. And again, also caveat, do it if you really are called to it and you really want to do it. It's not for everybody.
No.
I think it's been hugely beneficial for me as well for very similar reasons. And it's also kind of a weird thing to do, a medicine that is going to bring up a lot of emotional baggage and trauma that you haven't dealt with, so that then you could deal with it. Like, who does that?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like in our, we live in a culture of ignorance, so like just get it on with and just pretend like everything's fine. Everything's fine here. Nobody wants to, even like Instagram and like our whole which I'd like to talk about that a little bit too. It's like, all of the it's no shock to me that like all of that is really about putting on this fake facade that demonstrates that you're okay and everything's fine, when underneath you've got all these crazy things that have happened, And ayahuasca really is one of those medicines that really of its own accord, you know, you mentioned grandmother earlier. That's what people call her, that medicine. That's the traditional name for her. And it does sort of feel like there is a presence there that is actually,
it's like a motherly love.
Yeah. But it does she does bring up stuff that you haven't looked at.
Yeah.
So that then now you have to look at it so that you can make peace with it.
Yeah. I always tell everyone, if you want to do ayahuasca, just be prepared because she will change your life.
Yeah.
And it feels like you've been going through life with blinders on and then they're ripped off.
Yeah.
And so then you have a choice after you sit with medicine. You can either put the blinders back on and forget, or you can choose to remember the truth of who you are.
Yeah. It's very much of a red pill kind of a thing. And again, it's not for the faint of heart. Enter at your own risk.
Yeah.
Make sure that whoever it is that you're going to practice this with, if you choose to practice with, really, really knows what they're doing and really also knows how to create a protective space, because
a container.
We do things in this life like people drink like crazy and they don't think about what other sort of energies might be floating around that are not good, or things that are in their own backfield that they're not looking at. People smoke weed like crazy and don't think about how that might be affecting them, you know. And then all of a sudden they start acting differently, you know. We do all kinds of things without creating any kind of levels of protection. With ayahuasca, you're kind of opening yourself even more.
Absolutely.
So you want to make sure, and when I say like levels of protection, what I'm actually meaning is like, you know, prayer.
Yeah, absolutely. Spiritual protection. Yeah, for sure.
Which that sounds absolutely crazy, like I'm a lunatic. But in fact, you can call that also like intention. People get weirded out by the word prayer. I'm not weirded out by it. I think it's beautiful. But you could call it intention. You can call it just creating a safe space where you're like aware that things might come up that you may need to like recenter yourself and let go of. And also just energies that you've been hanging on to since you were a little kid. You know, it could be however you want to kind of interpret the source of those energies, because we don't have any idea anyway. But like, you really want to just be clear. You want to just create a very safe space and be with somebody who knows what they're doing and who knows what to do if things get a little bizarre. That's all. And also ask for help and center yourself and that kind of thing. But in any case, like you mentioned, these other kind of methodologies of achieving similar results, like doing breath work and doing shadow work. And I mean, there's all kinds of different therapies, and people are doing like ketamine treatments, I think, somewhat similar results. And
MDMA therapy is becoming a thing too. And for me, ayahuasca is, you know, I went to a therapist for 3.5 years, and doing one night of sitting with ayahuasca was the equivalent of 3.5 years of therapy. And so for me, it's...
Sorry, therapist.
Yeah.
And thank you.
Thank you. And...
But what's interesting, like people say stuff like that, and, you know, my friend that introduced me to it was like, dude, it's like doing the Landmark Forum. I know him from doing the Landmark Forum. He was like, it's like doing that, but like on steroids. And I was like, what does that even mean? Like, I don't get it. What it means is that I discover for myself through the process, like I am shown things that then I learn for myself inside of that medicine that no one else could tell me.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's worth noting, just generally speaking, because again, we want everything to look good all of the time. We don't want anyone to know that there might be anything awry. And we want to be right about stuff. And also we don't want anyone to tell us what to do, even though that's why we go to see the therapist. Yeah. Because of the tendency to keep the facade and our mask, you know, looking good is so strong because we're so, I don't know, I think we're terrified that we're going to get banished or executed fundamentally.
Canceled. Yeah. Cancel culture is a thing now.
Or actually canceled. But like, I feel like when we were tribal, you know, you get banished or executed, but now it's like you would get canceled. So it's the same kind of a thing. It's full circle. Yeah. But like that tendency. And so therefore we don't want to actually go into the discovery process for ourselves, but like, and I say this as someone who, you can ask my wife, hates being told what to do. You know, like it's something I actively have to deal with. like I am coachable when I choose to be coachable, but then not, so I struggle with this for sure, 100%. But I do know this. I know that if I consciously enter the domain where I'm actively trying to discover what is the source of like my trauma or my pain, what is my purpose, like really, and just being open and willing and not attached to what the answer is, because it could be like garbage man, that for me has been the most beneficial way and transformative thing to embrace as a context.
Totally.
And plant medicine really shows you that in a way,
know? A good friend of ours, she always says, her intention is to look at be shown her blind spots.
Yeah.
And I love that. It's crunchy and it's uncomfortable and it's icky, but also how beautiful. A lot of my intentions, cause I sit with ayahuasca once a month and I've had so many times where my intention is to fall deeply, madly in love with myself. And it's so beautiful because what happens inevitably in the ceremonies is I'm shown my shadow and I'm shown the way she's entitled and bratty and controlling and manipulative and this and that, which makes me in life want to cringe. But actually I have such compassion for her because I'm like, oh, you just wanted love there.
Yeah.
Or you just wanted to be seen there. Or you just wanted to be held and you weren't getting that. So you acted like an asshole, but like, it's okay, And so it really does. It gives me such compassion and empathy. I'm like, oh, okay, I see you. I get it.
Yeah, that's great. That's beautiful. If you're enjoying this program, if you love Lunacy, please consider becoming part of our team. Go to patreon.com/Lunacy podcast to become a member of our team. You can choose a number of different levels to support us on a monthly basis so that we can continue the work of exploring the love operating system, how best to be of service, and how to live life to the fullest. Thank you so much for your support. Much love, everybody. So I want to talk about you being Insta famous. And what that means, because I know you've had an interesting journey with that, right? You've got whatever, like 100,000 people that are tuned into everything Noel Elie. And I know, you've mentioned to me like that you kind of started out just sort of whatever, posting pictures of yourself and sort of, being a hot girl, right? And then that's transformed over time where you're like really sharing about your healing journey and like who you really are and what you're about, which I think is so beautiful on so many levels, because you've transmuted kind of the popularity contest of Instagram and the looking good of it into something that could actually, and it is actually valuable for people on a deeper level. Yeah.
I mean, I've lost a lot of followers actually, because I transitioned from the like hot girl summer, bullshit to the truth of who I am. And so I started to transition that after my mom passed away. And I would share about grief and grieving and be like snotty nosed, sharing things. And at the time I had, I don't know, like at first it was like 80%, 90% male followers. And then it started to dwindle to 70%. And then I've really intentionally worked on, my audience can be men, but likely it's women, And so let me intentionally create content that's going to speak to that woman out there who feels alone, who is having all these symptoms and doesn't know what's going on. I'm trying to be the person that I wish I had.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. That's
sharing
really great.
All of it. And, as you know, I've been going through a lot in the last couple of years, particularly the last 8 months going through divorce. And I've just been, at first it's interesting. I was actually hiding that. I was asked not to share. And so I was respecting those boundaries. But then I got to a point where I realized I'm being inauthentic.
Right.
I'm going through like I would share stories where I'm like crying and dancing and doing embodiment to move the emotions through me, saying this is how I deal with grief. But then I wasn't actually being honest about what I was grieving.
Yeah.
And so I got to the point where I was like, wait, no, I no longer owe you anything.
Right.
I owe myself more.
Uh-huh.
And so started sharing that. And it's hard because it's like you open a whole can of worms of people asking questions and being confused. But it's like, I have to, growing up in the South, I don't know if you dealt with this a little bit, but there was a lot of like, hey y'all, everything's fine. I have a smile on my face, and then I'm going to go into a room and talk behind your back and be in my depression and whatever it is. And there was a lot of pretending that went on.
By the way, have another cocktail.
Yep. Have a beer. And
no offense, Southerners, we love you.
I mean, I love my Southern roots, and I really recognized for myself what I did, which is I wore a mask and I pretended like things were fine growing up when we were being evicted from our home and had no money, and like I pretended.
Yeah.
And so now as an adult, I realize I don't have to pretend. And so that may mean losing followers on Instagram, but also attracting my tribe, attracting those people where we need each other. Yeah. And so I've been pivoting in that way.
Yeah. So that's great. And I do want to get into a little bit more about what the divorce has been like that for you and what it's meant to you. But I do, it's a good opportunity for me to just say what's on my mind here. Like, one of the things that I am very committed to is aging powerfully.
I love that.
Like, not aging gracefully. I mean, gracefully too, also, but aging powerfully, where like I am stronger now than I ever have been. And I'm older now than I ever have been because I'm going to the gym, working out, et cetera. But because I'm also committed to that, and I'm also committed to my health. And what I find is a lot of my friends are incredibly committed to their own health. But then there's a good contingent of my friends and also just people in general who just are like, oh, well, I'm just getting old, so that's going to hurt. And I guess these things are going to hurt more. And I guess I'm going to have that problem going forward. And they don't take the time to stop and say, wait, what's really going on? How do I heal this? Because it's something I think that is lost. All of a sudden somebody starts limping and then they're limping for the rest of their life. No, man, you can heal that. So I'm really committed to that idea of optimum health, even with myself. Like, I broke my elbow, right? And they said that I can't straighten it. Well, I don't believe that. I got the plate out. I'm working on it. That's because I refuse to let the voices of like the norm dictate who I am and how I am in my life. So I want to applaud you, because I think it's amazing that like you really like, your story is one of you gave up pretty much everything in order to achieve a level of health, like in order to be vibrant and vital and alive in this life, and even including giving up whatever followers and et cetera. And also you had to give up a lot of your career, at least temporarily at the time. Yeah. So I think that's really beautiful. I just want to acknowledge you for that.
Thank you. Yeah. I always say to everyone, because I was working like a maniac. I had sometimes 12 auditions a week, and on top of running a company, a production and PR company, and producing events and book tours and all sorts of things. And I realized wealth without health means nothing. Right. So like, what am I doing? I'm sometimes working, 90 hours a week for what? Yeah. To be bedridden? No, thank you. Right. And so, and I was someone who loved my things, my material things. Yep. I hear you. Having to let go of all of that was such an initiation. Yeah. Was such a teacher. And so that's how like I'm able to, and I love what you said about aging powerfully and aging gracefully. My mom was someone who had such grace, and she passed away from cancer, and she was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. The doctors gave her 3 months to live, and she thrived for almost 6 years. Wow. And she beat the odds. And so she really demonstrated, okay, this is what you can do. Yeah. And so for me, it's trying to do that. And look, like, that's why I don't get Botox. I don't get fillers. I don't get boob jobs. And I'm absolutely support anyone who wants to do that. And for me, my mom distributed, like, you don't have to, and you can be a woman of grace. Right. And so I'm trying to do that. Now, who's to say what I'll do in the future? But, it's scary, especially being in the entertainment industry and in social media, like showing my lines and the cracks and the wrinkles as they come, but also like, okay.
Yeah. There they are. That's how it goes.
That's me.
Yeah.
It's real.
It's awesome. And so, and also I know, you're going through a huge transition in your life right now with getting a divorce. Mm-hmm. And I know how challenging that's been for you, as your friend. But I just wonder, because I know a lot of people obviously face divorce and go through divorce. And I mean, my parents got divorced, and I have so many friends who have gone through divorce or looking at getting a divorce or, like that. And so I know kind of from an ancillary perspective, how challenging for sure that can be. And from a direct experience, I'm just wondering, like, for you, what has that process been like? And how is it that you've been able to achieve kind of a certain level of grace and not beating yourself up about it and kind of falling into the common traps of facing that choice in life?
Oh man. It's been such a challenge. It's been the hardest thing I've ever gone through in my life. I was with him for 18 years. He's the love of my life. I will always love that man. And this is another initiation that we get to go through. And one of the things that has helped me the most is saying to myself, I chose these lessons in this lifetime. And Dan has been the greatest teacher of my life. And it's wild, because losing my mom was my best friend. And that was the hardest thing I had ever been through. And this has been so much worse. And because it's like when someone transitions, you don't have a choice.
Right. That's it.
Whereas when a marriage dissolves, it feels like that's in a way a choice. And so for me, it's Taylor Swift, there's a lyric in one of her songs, I think it's Ricochet, where it says, I didn't have it in me to go with grace. And I think about that a lot, because there are times where I absolutely have had so much grace. And there are times where I have been a monster. I have been not the best version of myself, but it's like, it's like all the wounds are exposed. And so for me, one of the things I'll share is we both moved on way too quickly. We both jumped into relationships, and, we met when I was 20.
Wow.
We started dating when I was 20. And so I'm 38. And we used to joke, like, if we ever got a divorce and had to date now, we'd be terrible because we wouldn't know how to date. And I now see the truth in that of, oh, whoa, like we both just jumped into relationships. We took no time by ourselves. And, that wasn't healthy. And so for me, I had to end that relationship with someone I really care about, because I realized I have to be by myself. Otherwise, I'm going to repeat the same patterns and I'm not going to grow from this experience. And so it's been doing a lot of shadow work and recognizing when I call my shadow, my ego, Angelica. So I recognize when Angelica is raging, raging. And when I say raging, you have no idea. And so what I've been trying to do and asking God and the universe and my angels and my guides, teach me how to turn rage into sacred rage. Teach me how to transmute this in a way that's empowering so that I can then teach it to women and teach it to others. And so I've been on this journey of, okay, I'm raging here. Let me feel it. Let me not bypass it. Because there's so many times when I've been on my hands and knees saying, this is too hard. This is too hard. Cancel.
Yeah.
But this is what I chose. And so it's really wild too, because when we started dating, I had an eating disorder, really bad eating disorder. I was anorexic and bulimic. And one of the things this is just me being in full transparency. One of the things, the story that I told myself in my early 20s was, I'm not enough for him. I'm not thin enough. I'm not rich enough. I'm not beautiful enough. And I pictured him wanting to be with a certain type of woman.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, from the outside at least, the type of woman he's with.
Mm.
So that wound from little 20-year-old Noel got ripped open, and it was like a machete went in and salt went in. And so that, insecure, scared, jealous, manipulative, controlling 20-something-year-old has been very present. And so I've had to love her up. And what I realized is I'm seeking this like external validation from this relationship or social media or this friendship when I have to go within and learn how to love myself. And so I've been trying to do that, but it's challenging.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I'm glad that you're going through that. I mean, I'm not glad that you're going through it. I'm glad you're getting a divorce is what I'm saying. No, not at all. I'm glad that you are doing the work necessary to heal yourself, to really like love yourself regardless of, I know for myself, like I looking back at my life, there's a lot of things that I would point to and be like, oh, failed at that, failed at this, failed at that thing. Oh, didn't do that right, And if I get stuck in that place, then I'm lost. I mean, I wouldn't be doing this show. I wouldn't be up to the things that I'm up to. I for sure wouldn't be making music, at this stage in my life. But like, but what I recognize is, no, first of all those things, all those failures that I had before, like those were stepping stones to now, and all of that, artistic expression. And for me anyway, what I was up to like is valid and good and has led me to the place where I am now. I'm a better musician. I'm a better actor. I'm a better writer. I'm a better host, better human being than I was because of those things. Yeah. And also, which is, by the way, it's a perspective. It's like a choice that I'm choosing to make about myself, because we're all looking at things through lenses.
Yeah. It's like happiness is a choice, right? Yeah. And so we can either wallow in our sorrow, or we can, I sometimes have days where I eat my feelings. Where I'm like, I'm going to have pizza and a cookie because I'm sad. I don't shame myself for it. I allow it to happen, because then in an hour and the next day I can choose again. And so like with people, anyone going through divorce, like I did a post on it where I said, nothing is, divorce according to societal terms or definition is like a failure, promises unkept, vows unkept, right? But like nothing is failed or broken. It's just love in a new direction. And the love doesn't go away.
Right.
It just shifts.
Yeah.
It pivots. And so, I don't know. I've said this to, the person I was dating. I said, I don't know if I'm going to be able to love like I loved this man of 18 years, but perhaps it's just going to be different.
Right.
And so it's like, for me, I fell into such victimhood. Oh my God, so much. I still do it, where it's like, he did this and he did this. And the reality is, it's like, let me take this finger pointing at him and point it towards me, and really do the work. And I've written, 8 pages of, I haven't given it to him yet, but 8 pages of apologies.
Wow. That's beautiful.
Because I've really recognized, oh, fuck, I did that, and that sucks. And looking at it sucks, but also it's really beautiful because, whether we're together or not, I want him to find a deep, great love, because I got to have that with him for 18 years.
Right.
How lucky am I? And I want him to have that again. And so if it's not with me, so be it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make it any less challenging. And also, we just got to keep on keeping on.
Yeah, indeed. That's beautiful. Yeah. I love what you said there about, divorce is not failure. It's just love in a new direction.
Yeah.
It's a really great way to look at it. And I also love the demonstration of like, I talk about the victim triangle a lot on this show because I'm opposed to it, because it's such a waste of time for myself. You know what I mean? And I go there also. I mean, we all, it's like, you just, how quickly can you recognize, oh, fuck, I'm being a victim right now. And why am I being a victim right now? And what can I do about it? And also, like in your case, what you just described is like, you immediately point the finger at him and then you start looking at yourself and like, how did I foster and create the situation that had that be the way that it is, which is so hard to do, like what lesson is it that I need to learn? And on one level, like what belief is it that I had about myself where I'm not enough, that created the need for him to prove that to me in some way, or life to prove that to me in some way, and then assign it to him.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow.
It's really wild. But one of the beautiful things, even though it's so excruciating, one of the beautiful things that's come through going through a divorce is, so we both jumped into new relationships, right? And so the way the universe, reciprocity has been such a thing, because what has happened is he has been in a relationship where there are certain ways, from my understanding, this person has acted towards him that he now feels what it's like because he treated me that way. And vice versa. And so the thing with me, I'll give you an example. The person I was dating, I said, I'm really struggling with you being defensive and self-righteous and acting one way in front of other people, but then when you're with me, acting differently.
Yeah.
And he, got defensive at first and then really took ownership of, wow, yeah, my shadow has been doing this. And because we've been so conscious and I've been extremely honest throughout the process, what I realized is, oh shit, oof, the way you're treating me is exactly how I treated Dan. So there were times he would come to me and I was self-righteous, or I was entitled, or I was like, well, you're not doing the work, so why am I going to listen? And I'm like, ooh, that's so icky.
Yeah.
And so there's just been so much of that happening. I'll speak for myself, where all of the sudden I'm getting treated the way I treated someone, whether it's Dan or someone else. And so looking at that, the universe is funny. She's interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. That's fascinating.
I think a lot of us, if we're willing to look at the reality when we're in victimhood, if we can just pause and breathe and go, wait, have I ever treated anyone like this?
Yeah.
I think we'd all be pretty shocked at how much we're all of a sudden feeling the way we treated someone else.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I can say this. I can definitely say that of people that I've known that have gotten divorced and then remarried, particularly when they didn't do a host of work and everything and take the time, like you said, that there definitely was like a boomerang shift, like what you're describing, where the opposite sauce happened. I've seen that up close and personal. I can't get super into why, just because whatever. But I've definitely seen that. And what comes up for me when you say that is like, do unto others.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like such a beautiful,
truly.
we say do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Right. And also like, but it's all in a way, it's like do unto others, because that's how others will do unto you. You know what I mean? Because that is how it will happen. That's how it's going to go down. So maybe make sure, be cognizant of how you're treating people and where it is that you're coming from a reaction and what that reaction is. And, because, you're defensive, right. In your relationship. Well, that's coming from a point of insufficiency, like a belief of insufficiency. Yeah. And I know I'm like that with my wife. That's something that I've been like really working on. We both kind of are working on, well, how is it that we are communicating with each other? And we're getting way better. I've gotten way better at like realizing, oh, wait, I'm totally triggered right now. And the way that you're talking to me right now is having me be triggered. And then she'll look at, oh, how am I talking to him? And like, why am I doing that? Oh, because I don't feel like he's listening. Right. And you know what? Maybe I wasn't listening.
Right.
Like, how do we get even deeper to the point of like, just underneath it? How do I respond instead of react?
Yeah.
But what's so interesting with what you're talking about is like, there is the do unto others thing. It's like, it's not just a nice quippy cliche thing to say, do unto others as you would have them do unto you, golden rule type deal. yes, that's true. And that's great. And treat people with love and respect. And however you can really come from a love operating system, you know, asking yourself, how do I love more? How do I get beyond this fear-based reaction that I'm having? But also do unto others, because you're going to reap the effects of the way that you treat people. And if you treat people like an asshole, life's going to come back and you're going to find out what that feels like personally.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's also like, look, we're all going to mess up. We're human, right?
Yeah.
Like we're all going to do it. So it's not being afraid to stand in your weakness. And so, you know, if I'm being told I'm being defensive, can I pause for a second and then let my, you know, I sort of do this thing when I'm upset where I feel like Angelica's like, yeah, I'm sad, or yeah, I'm pissed. Well, why are you pissed? I don't know. I just want to be pissed. And like letting myself kind of be in that place so I can get playful with it and see the ridiculousness of how I was acting. Dan was actually a really beautiful teacher for me in that, where I could kind of like cross my arms and be like, pay attention to me, or whatever it is. And so like, can I pause, have that sort of embodiment of how I'm feeling, and then stand in my weakness and say, yes, I'm defensive. Okay. Can I get curious?
Yeah.
Can I be curious about what you're saying without making you wrong, without shaming you, without being defensive? And can I get curious about why I'm being defensive in the first place?
Right? Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's messy. There's no getting around. This human business is so messy. Like I can't.
Life is hard.
You know,
life is in session.
And it's daily and it's always happening. And no matter how much I meditate and, you know, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ritualize my life. It's always going to come back to like, you know, you're going to get slapped outside the head.
Sure.
And then how do you deal with that?
Yeah.
But I agree with you, you know, like the more that I stand in my weakness and my propensity to be a stubborn, defensive jerk sometimes, the more that I'm able to like, you know, pull the air out of that and not have it be so virulent and also recognize the wounding that's behind that. You know what I mean? Like you're saying, you know, well, why does this part of myself feel so isolated and like unloved? Oh, wait, there's a part of me that feels that way. And who is this part? Oh, it's the critic or whatever it is. Okay. Like I hear your voice and I want to respect you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's also like getting to know yourself more. So, you know, someone once did something where I felt like he shamed me. And so my rebel archetype was like, well, he gave me good advice, but my rebel archetype was like, fuck you. I'm not going to listen to you.
Yeah.
Like, and so then I really sat with it for like half a day. Why did I feel that way? Because I was pissed at him.
Right.
And I called Jade, actually, our dear sister. And I was like, okay, trying to be in a conscious relationship, you know, what happens when this comes up? And so she said for her, like she takes a minute to process by herself and then go back and communicate. And so what I realized was instead of being shamed by this person, which I'm sure he didn't mean to shame me, but I felt shamed.
Right.
What I actually needed was him to be playful with me.
Yeah.
And say like, hey, Noni, that's my nickname, or, you know, Angelica, I see you're present right now. Is this how you want to be? And then I can play with that and dance with that. But when I feel shamed, I'm like, screw you.
Yeah.
And so then it's like communicating my needs. And that's all I can do, right? I can communicate my desire and then maybe I'll be met with that, maybe not. But that for me is like the first step is like going within, getting help if I need it from a dear friend or whatever, and then communicating my truth.
Yeah, that's beautiful. That's really beautiful. And I think it's so funny that you call her Angelica.
Yeah.
And not Demonica.
Yeah. No. Well, because she looks like an angel, but she's spicy.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, I gotta. I'm getting pressured to come up with a name for my thing. I haven't come up with it yet. I'll let you know. You'll be the first to know, Lunacy people.
That's right.
That's beautiful. All right, great. Well, so I asked this of all my guests. For you, Noel, what is sacred and what is insane?
Oh. What is sacred? To me, it's living life as a ceremony. creating ritual, whether that's getting up in the morning, rubbing my body, talking to her, putting essential oils on my pillow before I go to bed, family, relationships. I mean, life is sacred, period. And what is insane? It's kind of what I said at the beginning. Like, I'm a little crazy. I'm a little insane. But truthfully, what is insane to me is, for me, living life as black and white. I choose to live my life in the gray because I don't have all the answers. Nothing is certain. Some things are certain, but for the most part, for me, nothing is black and white. And so trying to make things right or wrong, yes or no, all the time, that's insanity.
That's great. That's beautiful. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Great. Cool. Is there anything else that you need to get off your chest or you want to spit out to the people, a little bit of wisdom or advice that you might want to share?
For any divorcees, one of the things that I would recommend is make a list of all the things you couldn't do with your ex, whether they would do them with you or you stopped living the fullest expression of who you were because you got comfortable or complacent. Make a list and do those things, because it will start to remind you of who you are and who you've always been and why life is so good.
Beautiful. That's awesome. That's really great.
Thank you.
Cool.
And lastly, if you want to stay tuned in my wild, quite dramatic life, you can follow me on Instagram at Noel_Elie. Check out my website, Noel Elie Productions. If you need help with production, PR, health, wellness, all the things.
Cool. That's great. That's great. Awesome. Well, I really want to acknowledge you for just for being such a great example of someone who's like fully committed to life and living and vitality and not allowing illness to eat you up. I really want to acknowledge you for being a powerful woman in this world and, choosing your faith and your path above beauty, right? Really like digging deeper into what it means to be human, what it means to be here and being on a spiritual path. I really want to acknowledge you for all of that and also for being my friend. Thank you. Well, I'm a reflection of you. And the last thing I'll say for anyone going through any sort of chronic illness, the number one mantra that I would give to myself as I went to each doctor and each specialist is every hand that touches me is a healing hand. Beautiful. So that's beautiful. Nice. Awesome. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Lunacy is a creation of myself, Geoff Eido, with podcast management by Kimberly Joy Voice. Much love. See you next week.